Mr Faulkner's relatives could do little after the early morning blaze. The 22-year-old had lived in the house with his sister, her de facto husband and two small children. At about 1 o'clock, the family woke to the crackle of flames and breaking glass in the kitchen. The fire spread quickly, filling the house with choking smoke. A 3-month-old baby was snatched from a cot in a front room, and a 2-year-old was saved from a back room shared by Mr Faulkner.
It appears that he moved around the premises. He might have been disorientated because of the smoke and was unable to find his way out.
The young man's body was found slumped by a doorway inside the front of the house. In another fire later this morning, a lone 17-year-old female occupant was heard screaming inside a blazing 2-storey brick building on Lookout Road, New Lambton. Neighbours called firefighters who rescued the girl, and she was taken to the John Hunter Hospital suffering minor burns. Upstairs sections of the house were extensively damaged. The house had recently been renovated.
The state government has signed a letter of intent with Fletcher Jennings and May Nicholas to build and run a new hospital in Port Macquarie. The public packed the gallery at last night's council meeting, demanding that land sold for the project be bought back by the council. Alderman John Murphy believes the local community has not been adequately consulted about the matter. He proposed that residents be polled about whether or not they want the facility. The motion was passed, but it will cost about $60,000 to conduct the poll. The council will ask the state government to pay for it. However, Alderman Murphy says the poll will go ahead regardless of who pays. He expects it will be held within 5 weeks. A second proposal that the council buy back the hospital site was rejected.
Statewide tour. St George has 700,000 members and shareholders eligible to vote and needs 2/3 of them to ratify the move to becoming a bank.
Our great fear is that people will not exercise the vote because they think it's a fait accompli. It's their organisation. We want them to vote.
In New South Wales and Canberra alone, St George manages around $7.5 billion of public funds. Mr Sweeney says the best way to secure that money is to become a bank. On first impressions at least, some members agree.
We like St George as a building society, so we feel sure it would be a good bank, and that's the way I would vote.
You'll be able to get more money out for one thing and more stability. No, I think the banks want a bit of a liven up myself, some of the others.
If St George gets the nod, a banking application will be lodged with the Reserve Bank in April. It's then reviewed by the Federal Treasury, and if approved, Mr Sweeney expects the licence to be issued by the end of June. The vote isn't the only thing on Mr Sweeney's mind, however. Tomorrow's economic statement comes a close second.
The banking community generally and large lenders such as ourselves will be looking for some sort of an indication as to what the government's requirements are in terms of the availability of credit.
Mr Sweeney believes economic recovery largely depends on the credit providers and their ability to make it more freely available.
A rubber-littered building site in the heart of Newcastle. Soon, work will start on a multi-storey complex. But for the moment, engineers are more concerned about what's happening underground. And this seismic cone is the key.
We can analyse the site's behaviour for earthquakes of various intensity and type.
The cone is slowly driven into the ground. Its job is to measure shock waves. With each blow, computer screens come to life. These graphs telling engineers just how a building's foundations are going to stand up to horizontal force. The test takes no more than a couple of hours. The same process overseas, using extensive drilling, can take 2 days. The seismic cone was developed in Newcastle. It may yet find its way into foreign soil. She was voted Best Young Trainer. At only 18, Sophie Johns is in charge of Farmer Wilson, a dog which has already racked up almost $70,000 in prize money. What a resume! The Peter Mossman Classic, the Singleton Classic, the Newcastle Silver Bullet, the Maitland Classic. 36 starts for 23 wins. But there is a problem, a niggling paw injury, which could put him out of tomorrow's Winfield Challenge.
He's 50-50 at the minute, but as I say, he's got to be 110% to go.
If he does go round, he'll be in esteemed company. Adelaide Cup champ, South Road Sid. Credibility, runner-up in the National Derby, and Greyhound of the Year, Jessica Casey. Stiff competition. They'll be racing just after 9 tomorrow night.
The green fringe skirting Lake Macquarie is becoming increasingly dotted with houses. To ensure that large pockets of bushland remain, the state member for Lake Macquarie, Jeff Hunter, is to introduce a private member's bill to Parliament to create a foreshore park. Under the proposal, which takes in about 10% of the lake's shoreline, 5 areas would be set aside: 1,200 hectares on the Morisset Hospital site, 500 at Crangan Bay, a parcel of 100 hectares on Point Wollstonecroft, another 45 on Wangi Point, and 50 hectares at Awabba Bay. Missing from the proposal, the controversial tract of 240 hectares on Green Point, which is still the centre of negotiations between the property owner, Lake Macquarie City Council, and the government. Mr Hunter says he'll be urging the Greiner government to buy the Green Point land for inclusion in the foreshore park. The Lake Macquarie Labor MP is confident his bill will have the support of the Independents and the Democrats to carry it through both houses of Parliament. The proposal also has the backing of the Lake Council.
And I think it can only be a positive step forward for this city to preserve an asset such as the foreshore area, and it'll be good for the city now and both for in the future.
The economic statement has been described by the New South Wales Farmers Association as missing the main event for rural Australia. Federal member for New England, Ian Sinclair, says it looks more at protecting the Labor leadership rather than achieving national recovery. The package does provide additional funds for the Rural Adjustment Scheme, which is a crop planting incentive, and accelerated depreciation for plant and machinery. This is aimed at giving the business and rural sector some stimulus, but experts say it's not enough.
There will be some benefits from the changed transport arrangements. Eventually transport costs will be lower for rural people, but that will take some time to come through.
The Farmers Association says the crop planting scheme is far too small to encourage the expansion of wheat planting. While the statement implies an injection of funds into the wool industry, the government is actually using growers' money. The association says what's needed is cuts in interest rates and a more competitive Australian dollar. Brian Hardacre says the statement is not comprehensive enough to revive the rural sector.
In summary, I would say too little, too late.
Southern Pacific executives announced details of the new flights at Newcastle Chamber of Commerce this afternoon. The airline already operates flights from Sydney to Tamworth and Dubbo, as well as Queensland operations from Brisbane to Bundaberg and Gladstone. The Newcastle-Brisbane service will complete a regional network. Southern Pacific General Manager George Brown says the daily morning service will target business people.
We see a lot of opportunity with regard to developing trade and bringing business down into the Newcastle region, the Hunter region and the Port Stephens area, and conversely we look towards taking people from Newcastle up through Brisbane into Bundaberg onto the Great Barrier Reef.
The decision to operate out of Newcastle has been warmly welcomed by the Chamber of Commerce.
And obviously with our push to upgrade Williamtown Airport we need increased air services, and the ones that have been announced today are just that.
Southern Pacific will also launch a similar service from Coffs Harbour to Brisbane. Flights on both routes will begin on March 16. Tom Hilston, NBN News.
The 270 businesses that make up the Maitland Central Business District collectively pay more than $300,000 a year to promote their area. Recently, disgruntled shop owners in the Pender Place Mall claimed the levy was largely being used to only promote the neighbouring Heritage Mall. As a consequence, they claim Pender Place was suffering. The issue came to a head last night at the annual general meeting of the Maitland CBD Management Board, which coordinates the promotional levy. Shop owners voted to replace 4 out of 6 board members. The board's chairman believes the recent controversy contributed to the most dramatic reshuffle of board members in the committee's 4-year history. Mr Dugard believes the associated publicity has adversely affected the business community.
When you take your grievances to the press, and of course they're only too anxious to print it, people read it, they can take their own impressions from it, and I'm certainly sure that the impression of Maitland has been severely damaged.
The board wants to dismiss the issue and now work towards making Maitland the major regional shopping centre in the Hunter, and through this attract external investment from which the entire community benefits. Catherine Lamond, NBN News.
The Spanish have a saying that books, like friends, should be good but few. Well, nobody's told Newcastle University's 4 libraries that, as today they took possession of their 1 millionth book. The milestone tome won't be found on any bestsellers list, at least not from this century. The book was published in 1647 and has the tongue-tying title, An Historical Discourse on the Uniformity of the Government of Britain. With 1 million books covering every subject from aardvarks to Zulus, librarian Bill Linklater asserts the university is writing a new chapter in its history.
It would be the largest library in terms of materials in the collection of any regional university in Australia.
To coincide with the 1 millionth purchase, a group called the Friends of the University has opened a rare books room in the Auckmoody Library. Don't judge these books by their tatty covers or by the prices written on them. The volumes in this little treasure trove are worth a financial and historical fortune. Among the 4,000 rare books, accounts of the First Fleet and one of only 2 journals of Matthew Flinders' voyages still in existence. Scott Bevan, NBN News.
"18-year-old Christy Furlong has spent the last 2 years looking for a full-time job. She worked as a dental nurse in Sydney when she first left school, but since she moved to Newcastle in 1990, full-time employment has eluded her. She says jobs are scarce.
It's a pain because you waste your time writing away to them and they just don't bother. So you never know whether you've got it or you don't, so you just sort of take the time to sit at home and wait.
Christy has some casual work as a cashier at a supermarket. She earns between $40 and $120 per week. That's less than the dole, but she would rather have some work than none. Statistics show that 1 in 3 people aged between 15 and 19 is looking for work in the Hunter. Dr. Paradise from the Hunter Valley Research Foundation says that's an increase of 10% in the last year.
Well, young people just have not been able to compete with a lot of the older employees who have skills and also have had the experience.
The overall unemployment rate has also increased from 9% last year to 12.6% this year.
Well, the two things are the recession biting in the Hunter and also the fact that there are seasonal fluctuations with regard to school leavers joining the workforce during the January period.
Well, if you're going to tell the world your age, you may as well do it in style. Liz celebrated her birthday today with a gala bash at Disneyland's Magic Kingdom.
She is the most long-lasting star in the firmament. And of course I know about that cosmic stuff.
Mrs. Taylor Fortensky has hit the big 6-0. Well, that's all she admitted to her 1,000 guests.
I'm 60 years old today, but I'm dedicating this celebration of life to the kid in me.
The $1 million birthday bash is likely to go through the night, and Liz is all ready for other 60-year-olds.
Oh, just enjoy it. Grab a hold of it and enjoy it.
The Newcastle show has ended in a bang, with crowd numbers and takings up on last year. The usual attractions like the ring events and Sideshow Alley catered to all ages. There were also some surprises in store for the unsuspecting. Musical entertainment also abounded. Organisers say the new entertainment centre proved a great success with both the crowds and exhibitors. Catherine Lamond, NBN News.
$30,000 was spent on the new Double Bay fire station. The upgraded facilities have been welcomed, given the high fire danger in the area.
It'd be fair to say that this is probably one of the village areas in our council area which causes the most concern because of the nature of the surrounding bushland.
This building replaces one that was built in the early 60s when the town's fire brigade was first formed. Golden leaves are a sign that Armidale's Autumn Festival is about to start. The entertainment will begin with a pre-festival ball this Friday night, but the main festivities will swing into action from the 13th of March. Participants will be able to enjoy a variety of sporting and cultural activities.
Lots and lots of things for the family to do. That's the most important thing, the family, the children, the mums and dads, and make it a whole family week.
Jazz lovers will be entertained by local and world-renowned artists. There'll be a beer fest and a street parade which will include a 6-pipe band.
Well, the street parade's going to be very, very good, and bearing in mind we haven't had a street parade since 1974, so we've got 6-pipe bands and our own Armidale City Band, and we have promises of 10 or 12 floats, and we have the Taz Boys marching, and we have Big Dog coming up from NBN.
The inaugural festival coincides with the 150th anniversary of racing in the city. Organisers hope the festival will become an annual event. Jane Anderson, NBN News.
A Knights talent scout spotted Missy Alofa, otherwise known as Missy, during his Rugby League Sevens World Tournament appearance with New Zealand a few weeks ago. The 19-year-old shone by outpacing Penrith for 2 tries.
We were aware of Missy, but we weren't aware of his genuine pace alongside players such as Carter from Penrith and Fittler from Penrith. When he scooted over a couple of tries, he didn't turn our heads as much as he turned the Penrith heads, who got a shock when they couldn't catch him.
Missy's introduction to the club was at the hand of fitness trainer Joe Dunnage, whose task it is to hone the youngsters' skills to first grade level over the next few months.
Yeah, it's pretty hard. Yeah, Joe's tough man.
Born to Western Samoan parents, Missy grew up and played first grade for the Waianui Mata Club in New Zealand. He'll start with the under-21s in Newcastle, playing wing and looking for a break into the Winfield Cup first grade competition. Missy has been clocked at 10.6 seconds over 100 metres and will pull on the boots for a trial match against Canberra at the ISC next Sunday.
I'll give it my best shot, that's all I can say. Give it my best, and it's good to be here, and I'll work hard at it, hope for results.
He's part of a genuine build-up for outside backs, and we're very hopeful that he'll be able to fill that void over a period of time. He's 19 years of age and we won't be rushing him.
Organisers have attracted a major sponsor for the match, and the game will be the highlight of the night, with at least 2 curtain raisers already organised.
Both country sides, the country under-19s will be playing city under-19s, and country under-21s are playing the Australian Navy. As well as that, hopefully a major schoolboys game.
The Scottish side will spend several days in the city. The game will be closely watched by Australian selectors, with a test match organised for the following weekend. The Tamworth fixture is the only match scheduled for the Scots outside of a capital city, and this, coupled with the fact the game will be played under lights at Scully Park, should guarantee a sellout crowd.
Hopefully in the order of about 5,000, a nice clear frosty night, even more than that, because it'll be a full day's entertainment and a lot of people obviously on the way home from work.
The ambitious and contentious plan to use the Stockrington site as the end of the line for Sydney's garbage surfaced last year. Since then, representations have been made to local councils by former Newcastle man John Stipwich, a principal of the company proposing the dump. The idea was met with a mixture of interest by councils faced with pressing waste disposal problems, an insult by some who resented the idea of being seen as a dumping ground for Sydney. In any case, the plan has not yet become an issue. The Environment Minister, Tim Moore, acknowledges the proposal, but says it will not rate further comment or consideration in the near future. A spokesman for the Minister added that any plan to put Sydney's garbage disposal into the hands of private industry would have to go to open tender. A waste management strategy is yet to be finalised. The rebuff came as a surprise to Mr Stipwich, who claims to have government support for the plan and was waiting for the go-ahead to launch environmental impact studies and development applications.
Powered hang gliding is not a new sport in Australia. The ultralights have been decorating our skies for the past 7 years. The 1- or 2-seater crafts, commonly called trikes, are flown by shifting a person's weight and flexing the wings in various directions. Trikes have a 65 horsepower engine, fly around 100 kilometres an hour and can remain airborne on a tank of domestic petrol for up to 4 hours.
It's got the freedom of the wind on your face. And you're just moving with the air, with the aircraft. You're feeling like a bird. It's the closest to free flight, unpowered flight that you can get with a motor.
The movement is growing in Australia, and not only among the sporting fraternity.
Farmers and aerial spotters actually using them a lot as well. There's fishermen using them up in the Gulf to spot prawn catches.
With this comes the need for a standardised instructor's certification course, and that's been some time coming.
There was nothing at all. Not one sentence written about how to fly, how to teach, how to drive these things through the air.
A Newcastle group set about designing a course 5 years ago. Last year they trialled it, its success providing the benchmark for Australia's first formalised instructor's course. But the final seal of approval depends on the Civil Aviation Authority. Today was D-Day.
Certainly does meet our requirements. Safety's the most important thing, and trikes can be operated safely when they're operated properly by people who've been trained on this course.
All enrolled in the course are either chief flying or senior pilot instructors. By completing the course, the chief flyers are licensed to open a training school. The course and conference will finish on Sunday. Catherine Lamond, NBN News.
Newcastle University takes in 72 medical students each year, but that could change. The federal government is looking at medical school cutbacks and possible closures due to a massive oversupply of doctors.
People say there's Newcastle, it's the youngest, it's the smallest. Maybe if we close Newcastle or somewhere else, and these are all under rumour, but no solid things. I think it would be a great shame.
It's estimated there are between 3,000 and 5,000 too many doctors Australia-wide. Professor John Hamilton, the Dean of Medicine at Newcastle University, says the schools should be saved. He believes the government has gone too far, bringing too many doctors in from overseas.
In the last 3 years, the numbers taking the overseas examination has gone up threefold, so that there's something like 400 people taking the exam each year this last 12 months. That's a very large number of doctors coming in.
Health administrators say the issue of too many doctors has been brewing for at least 5 years, creating a snowballing effect. The federal government says something has to be done to address the oversupply. And while medical school cutbacks are being discussed, a national health strategy also includes several other options. One option is giving doctors more incentives to work in rural areas which are actually undersupplied, encouraging early retirement for medicos and checks on the migration rates. A government directive is expected within a year. Newcastle University says it will fight to maintain its program of innovative training and research skills. Peter Ryan, NBN News.
Derby Street in the Newcastle suburb of Cooks Hill is an inner-city business area developing its own identity. It's attracting new businesses and urban residents at a regular rate, but there's one group that isn't welcome. This unassuming streetfront residence has become an informal drop-in centre for street kids who stay over for a small payment to the operator. Local businesses along the street have been hit by an unprecedented crime wave, and they're casting about for blame.
It's really frightening what's going on, and I'm very disturbed by events events of the last few weeks, certainly, yes.
Do you have any idea what's behind this?
I do. There has been a large influx in the last few weeks, from what I can gather, speaking to police and local business people around here, that there is a large influx of young people, street kids for want of a better expression.
Many proprietors along this street say that the increase in crime coincided with the arrival of the drop-in centre, and it's not surprising with views like that they're reluctant to appear on camera. Operators of the drop-in centre say it's a typical reaction to a section of the community that nobody wants.
We're street kids sort of thing, we're scum of the earth, you know, but that's not how it goes, mate. If we live here, you know, and the crime rate increases here, I can say that it's no one from here sort of thing, so I know that for a fact.
Police won't speculate on unsolved crime in the area, but they do say they're aware of problems in the neighbourhood.
We did conduct an operation, and it did result in a number of street children being arrested for numerous offences relating to break-in and stealing from motor vehicle and actual street offences.
And the problem isn't likely to go away overnight. It's understood the operator of the informal drop-in centre is seeking council approval to establish a full-time service on the street. Tom Hilston, NBN News. NBN will replay all the night's home matches except those that are Friday night and Sunday matches of the day, which will already be seen on NBN. As well, NBN has already locked in the away fixtures against Brisbane and the Gold Coast, and it is hoped that the matches against the Steelers and the Raiders in Wollongong and Canberra will also be shown. The replay of the night's matches will be after the movie on Monday evenings, alleviating some of the fears of the night's hierarchy about a cut in crowd figures due to television.
As in the past, you know, we've been mainly concerned about our protecting our gate revenue, which is important to us for survival more than anything else. So to be able to get the game spread in the wider aggregated market is good news.
NBN telecast the night's matches in 1989, but also has had a 30-year association with rugby league in the Hunter Valley.
It all started way back in 1962 with the first season culminating in the grand final between Souths and Norths, won by the Blue Bags. Of course, NBN since that time have done many internationals, one notable against South Africa at the #1 sports ground many years ago, and it's great to be back involved with rugby league.
The Knights' first match of the season is at home against Illawarra, and the Red and Blues are hoping to build on their awesome record at Marathon Stadium.
Clarencetown on the banks of the Williams River is not just a rural centre, it's also an environmental nerve. The Williams is sometimes used for Newcastle's drinking water pumped through to Grahamstown Dam. But Clarencetown, an area of 700 people, has no town sewage treatment works. Some concerned residents have put in envirocycles which treat the effluent, but most have the old-fashioned septic tanks.
Septic tanks can't work. As soon as you get wet weather, they flood and it oozes everywhere and it runs down into the river, which is very detrimental.
About 130 residents met with council officials last night to try and solve the problem. But when the locals were told they could face payments between $1,200 and $1,500 per year over the next 40 years, they were stunned.
The cost is just far and away just not on.
Of 4 options suggested, 3 would discharge effluent into the river. Dungog Council Shire President Bruce Williams believes a treatment plant could possibly be set up in the nearby state forest. Public Works will pay half of any plant's costs, but Mr Williams believes the ratepayers need more support.
We need funding. We need funding from the government, state government. If we don't find more money, as far as the council is concerned, as far as these people are concerned, nothing's going to happen.
Residents say if Newcastle wants clean drinking water, it should pay something for it.
If the water board have got the water to sell and they've got a product to sell, well, I feel myself that I reckon it's their baby to try and protect it.
Hunter Water says it doesn't pollute the water and it shouldn't have to pay to keep it clean. The corporation says that's the responsibility of local residents. Peter Ryan, NBN News.